Hello and welcome to your weekly podcast here on Four Lads Had a Dream. My name's Andrew and I'm joined this week in our fancy new StreamYard setup with three of my very favourite podders, Shona, Stevie and Kenny. Obviously we have a lot to discuss, but the most important thing is that Rangers got a win, and not only a win, but a fairly comprehensive win as well. Always pleasant to talk about. Rangers demolished our opponents 6-0. Just fantastic stuff to see. Probably the most complete 90-minute performance I think we've seen, certainly this season. Yeah, just really fantastic stuff. And we're going to talk about all of that right now. Stevie, I want to come to you first. I'm not going to go through the game itself in general. I just want to pick out a few, key moments and bits from it there. One of the aspects I really enjoyed was on the left-hand side, Ravi Matondo playing maybe one of his best games for us. His goals and assists and his partnership with Yefty on the left-hand side. I think that was a partnership that really worked. We still don't know for sure if Ravi Matondo will be here come the end of the transfer window, but it certainly looks like he's settling in really nicely for us at the moment.
Yeah, the Peter Lovenkrands effect. When he was about to leave, he suddenly turned up as well for the last kind of bit of his contract. Consistently, Ravi Matondo, first time he's linked away, has been excellent. I thought he was great on Saturday, Andrew. I really did. I thought Jeffy was really good as well, and I thought that the pace and the quickness of their breaking and the ability to get forward very quickly really helped Ravi as well. So, and I think as well that because Ravi is comfortable knowing that he's got somebody with recovery pace behind him, he was quite happy to bomb forward. And a couple of times in the first half, he actually forgot to take the ball with him. He was going so quick. But a couple of nice finishes, a couple of really great assists. I thought, I'll be honest with you, right? I thought Cyriel was great on Saturday, but I thought Ravi was robbed a wee bit for man of the match. But Jeffy, I think, has shown incredibly good potential. Now, don't know how good he is defensively, because in pre-season we had a wee bit of worry about that, didn't we? He was a wee bit fragile. But I think in Scotland, where the majority of games where we'll be on the front foot, I think this boy could be a serious weapon for us. He looks quite athletic, quite strong. So, Andrew, yeah, I thought they were a real highlight. I thought they did well against St Johnstone. We talked about that last week when we were doing our teams. I said that they would stay in because that they done well. So, yeah, really pleased with them too. Right, quite happy with that, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. Kenny, we have to come to you now. I know it's going to upset the other two, but we simply have to talk about it. You had suggested before the game that you would like to see Sterling in at right back and for Tav to drop out the team. Now, kind of half of that happened for half of the game. We did see that kind of interchange in the midfield with Sterling coming out and playing on the right-hand side as a right back and Tav stepping into the midfield, which was interesting to see. I think it was a worthwhile experiment. I think without the injury that Leon Balogun picks up, we'd probably see that for the rest of the game. I mean, for you, obviously, it's a validation of all of your theories, and you'll be rightly lauded in the comments for being correct. But I think it's an interesting experiment, and maybe one that we could see going forward into the old firm potentially. What do you think?
Yeah, I would hope so. Look, Shona discussed this last week when she was talking about Connor Barron filling in when Tav was getting inverted and coming into the midfield, and it worked well, but Sterling and Tavernier were doing it really, really well on Saturday. And you can tell that it's something that Philip Clement wants to do. He wants to get those fullbacks into the middle of the park and up the park. Sterling is tailor-made for that. If he's going to play, and I know he ended up getting into centre half, but if he's going to play in the midfield, he is perfect foil for that for me. I don't know what you guys think as well, but that he is perfect foil to just fill in when Tavernier does go forward. Ryan Jack used to do it really well for him under Steven Gerrard. It was Ryan Jack that would come in and do that. And it's been sadly missing for about 18 months. And, I feel there was a point really early on in the game where we had went up the park, we were in their half, and we gave it away actually really early, because I didn't think we played that well in the first 10 minutes, but really early we gave it away, and it was the first thing, I can't remember what the Ross County player it was ping it right down our right hand side in the acres of space, and we just filled it as soon as it happened. I don't know if there was word for the manager to get that filled, and it stopped immediately. But yeah, look, we all know what Tavernier brings to us going forward. And it is the defensive side of the game that's a little bit of an issue. And although you're saying I'm vindicated, I'm not really, because he started and I thought Tavernier played really well on Saturday. I have to say, I thought he had a good game. But so did Shona and Sterling as well. Look, it is one of those things, Andrew, that if we're going to play this way, where we're going to invert those fullbacks, Dujon Sterling in the midfield is actually perfect for that. So, you know, I'm contradicting myself a little bit, or, you know, double negativing myself a little bit here, if you know what I mean. But look, I thought we played really well. I thought we looked really good going forward. I thought we've been really solid the last couple of games. And fair play to James Tavernier, because he gave me a bit of a slap on Saturday, because I did think he played really well on Saturday. I thought he had a good game, Andrew. I really did.
Can I just say, Andrew, somebody messaged me during the game on Saturday, comment-wise, on YouTube, saying, "Well said, Kenny. You'll get there soon, Stevie. Don't worry." And I had to message back saying, "Sorry, buddy. I'm too busy at the Rangers game watching James Tavernier assist." So I'm getting stick, despite spending the whole summer saying that Rangers need to move James Tavernier on and Rangers need to replace him and stuff like that. We ended up getting it tight just because Kenny dared to say that I wouldn't start him in 11. The truth is, as we've said all along, not many of us would start him in 11, but we tried to say what Clement would do. So really, the only people that were vindicated over the weekend was Shona and I. When Kenny wanted him out the team and dumped, we wouldn't have won 6-0 if Tav wasn't playing. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
You always, you know, take these kind of things gracefully, Stevie. It's good to see. You know, you're just like humble with your opinions and, you know, quite accepting of everyone else's as well. It's good.
Just look, see, while we're at it, I want to know when the golf is going up as well. When's the golf going up? Just get it sorted out. Come on.
That's like a 3-minute long video. But yeah, I can cut that together for you if you want, Stevie. You can keep it for your own personal viewing pleasure. Right. Shona, you know I had to come... Easy there, guys. Easy. We'll get to it. Shona, I need to come to you for the next one, because we've talked far too long without talking about the man of the match, the goal scoring hero, Cyriel Dessers, who performed excellently. Again, took his first chance and scored it. And honestly, if he can keep that kind of thing up, I'd love to, you know, just live in that world. You know, it was just a really solid performance. Scored 2 goals, then got taken off angry because he didn't manage to get the third, so Danilo could come on. Yeah, an excellent performance, and I think probably up there with his best so far in the Rangers jersey.
Well, that's now 5 goals and assists in 6 games for Cyriel Dessers, so he's doing his job at this moment in time, and I'm all for it. Like, I know I've been taking some amount of pelters for it, but look, at the end of the day, he's probably our most on-form player at this moment in time, and I thought for the very first goal, it actually starts off with I think it was it was an attack from Ross County, and it was Cherny who managed to cut the ball out. Cherny plays a lovely ball. I think it was to, oh God, who was it? Was it to Lawrence at the time? Lawrence does a lovely pirouette in the middle of the park, and then obviously then it was Lawrence that takes just a little touch right by the defender and slots the ball through to Dessers, and Dessers obviously hits the ball pretty much first time into the back of the net. It was actually a really, really good work goal. I actually thought the goals at the weekend were very well worked goals. I think we'll go on to the Tom Lawrence goal, which was probably the goal of the day. I think that was an absolutely fantastic team goal. That was another really good team goal. And then obviously we'll talk about the Matondo goal, which was another really great team goal. But I think overall that was obviously Dessers' best performance. There was obviously a moment in the game where, and I think it was, now I can't even remember who picked the ball up, but they gave it to Dessers and down the right-hand side. Dessers actually manages to spin around and he plays the ball through to Tom Lawrence, whips the ball right across the other side of the pitch, and Tom Lawrence is 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper. Tom Lawrence at that moment in time should score, and Dessers should be in for another assist that day. So like, there was loads of good moments. I thought he held the ball up well. I thought even like a lot of Rangers fans have been saying, like, here the amount of times that he cuts inside as well for his goals. But I think honestly, he's now beginning to show. Like, he'll have to obviously do it in the big moments. I think that's what we're looking for is for Cyriel Dessers to score this weekend. I do think he has scored in a number of big games and has contributed, even the assist in the PSV game when he obviously played the ball through for Matondo. You talk about the goal in Betis. You obviously talk about the goal in Kiev as well, when the one with Czerny at the front post. And then obviously the second goal was, I think it was Barron who wins the ball and then plays the ball through to Matondo. Matondo hits the byline and then cuts it right across. And I think that's what we've been saying about Matondo, what he's lacked. He's probably maybe getting his head up and not been able to play those balls before. Or, for instance, I've said this to you know yourself, I think Matondo might have had the shot at that moment in time, and it usually goes astray. So, I think what he did this time was he played the ball right across the box, and there was Dessers there to tap the ball into the back of the net. But I thought overall, Dessers, that was probably his best performance in a Rangers shirt. And like I said, that's 5 goals and assists this season. I think there's probably other moments that we're going to talk about, but I think you've got to give Cyriel Dessers credit for his performance, and we'll have to wait and see if he can do it in the big games, and I think that's obviously going to happen this weekend. Obviously at Parkhead, if he can come up and score the goals, I do think he'll turn a lot of Rangers fans' heads. But yeah, I think it's all about these big moments that people talk about. Fair enough, it is Ross County. Obviously, we had a lot of possession in the ball, and this is what I said about James Tavernier. I think just going back to that James Tavernier performance, I think what we're trying to see is the role of maybe likes of, and I know people are going to get on to me for this, but the kind of role that maybe Kyle Walker or the likes of role that Trent Alexander-Arnold plays for Liverpool. Do you know what I mean? Coming inside, who are they? What do they do? They're really good at set pieces. Both of them take corners, both of them take free kicks. So I think that's what we're going to see. I think obviously there's one moment, I think, where Tavernier probably should have had a shot at goal when he tried to pass it. So I think just James Tavernier is just lacking a wee bit of confidence in front of goal. But apart from that, I thought obviously that's where I think Clement's going to try and go tactically. I think if you go when you've got a lot of possession in the ball, I think at home especially, or should I say at home, because I know we were playing at Hampden Park, but I think that's the kind of type of role you want to see Tav in, and it allows obviously a lot more attackers in the box. If you go back, watch those highlights, you see all the attackers in the box, and I'm sure we'll go into Matondo's goals, but he was playing like a second striker, wasn't he, the way he was making those runs. So, but no, overall, I thought Dessers had a very, very good performance, and he deserves credit for it. So, as I said, I'm a big, massive fan of him. I've always backed the boy, and I always will. And we'll just have to wait and see if he puts that big performance on the Old Firm game at the weekend. And I think then you'll see a lot of Rangers fans that might, do you know what I mean, warm to Dessers a little bit more.
Andrew, very quick point on Cyriel Dessers. If Cyriel Dessers didn't have that New Year Old Firm performance where he was absolutely howling, right? No offence to the big boy, but he went through about 309 times and didn't do anything, fell over and all sorts of stuff, right? See if he didn't have that game and the reaction was so toxic to that moment because it was such a pivotal moment in our season. See if he doesn't have that, we would be sitting here overjoyed with Cyriel Dessers because his form has been outstanding. His performances have been really, really good. If you watch him closely, I know he still likes a wee cut inside, but he's actually started a lot more first-time finishes. And he's changed his game, right? Now, something Shona didn't say, which I want to pick up on as well, is Tom Lawrence's goal, which we're going to come to in a wee minute. But the run that Cyriel Dessers made for that to drag the defender on the outside left after he played the ball in, you know, there's a lot to talk about that goal, but he deserves massive credit for that. If he didn't have that game, Andrew, the pressure on him and the judgment on him wouldn't be as high as it is, because people talk about, oh, he only scores against Motherwell, he only scores against this. Chris Boyd made a very successful Rangers career of doing that, right? So, also, the other quick point to make is as well, in Old Firms, he assisted for Kamar Roof. He scored at Ibrox. Both of those goals got disallowed, and he got one at Parkhead in the 2-1 defeat, right? So, the argument for him turning up in big games, Betis, Kiev, etc., is already there. I am not sitting here saying that the big guy is infallible. I know that Shona takes a lot of criticism because she obviously backs him, but even she's admitted herself that he's got a long way to go. But the truth is that his form at the moment is exceptional. And if he hadn't had those games last season, then we would be sitting overjoyed. And honestly, that's where I think it is. And I genuinely hope he gets his moment, because see if he gets his moment, all of a sudden we're going, we've got Cyriel Dessers on our hands here. So, you know, we're on that De Boer run of when he's brilliant, he's a 10 kind of player. So if he has his big moment on Sunday, which we all hope and pray he can, then I think Rangers fans will get on this boy and get on the Dessers hype train. So he's got, look, he needs to, and we hope that he does manage to do it. But there's an argument, Andrew, which is what I'm trying to point out. There's an argument here that only one or two performances, one or two big misses, etc., are the ones that are clouding our overall judgment of him. And I think maybe if he gets that on Sunday, he'll get the respect on his name that he might very well do. And that's all I'm saying, just as a conversation point.
Yeah, I think it's worth talking about the context here, right? Like, you're mentioning these goals that were disallowed that were in losses, and obviously that clouds the thing, right? You know, no one remembers fantastic goals that you score when you get beat. That's the unfortunate truth. There are other players in the squad who have also got some of those. Tav is one, for instance, who's got a couple of really cracking Old Firm goals, but they happened in defeats. I mean, Bobby Matondo's got one of the best ones in the last 5 years, and no one really remembers that because it happened in a draw. So it all comes down to the context. It comes down to performing on that big stage. I mean, you know, we can talk about the European performances, but the fact is Rangers fans will only remember them when they come in a game. That matters. And that does something for our league campaign and what's going to go on there. I want to stay on Dessers, and I want to stay with you, Stevie. Just to pick up on a quote that the manager had in the press conference after the game. The manager said he loves to stay, he loves to play for Rangers, he loves the shirt, he wants to die for the shirt, and talked about how he had helped Danilo and Igamane as well. We're going to come on to Danilo a little bit later on, but I think it's worth picking that out, just, you know, how important the manager sees him within that squad and how much the manager rates him. We only ever see what players do on the pitch. We don't see what they do off the pitch. We don't see the training grounds. We don't see how they're interacting with their fellow footballers. And so for the manager to specifically mention that in a press conference that included some references to some other players and how they have been perhaps less useful in that environment, I think that's worth highlighting because it does suggest something to the content of his character and what he's been doing, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about Dessers again because Kenny wanted to jump in and also had the point on it as well. So I'll very quickly just say that his, how can I word this? I can't really word it better, right? Than just to say the balls he's shown ever since the stick he started getting at the end of the start of last season, in the middle of it, he's come through it all. Every time he gets a knock, he just bounces back. The resilience is probably a better word, is definitely a better word. But the resilience that he's got is to be commended. And I think if more players had it in our squad, then we'd be in a better position. The big guy is unbelievably brilliant to deal with in a presser conference, in a kind of fan media thing. He gives you all the time you need. He's a really, really polite and engaging guy. So listen, I want to like him. I want him to have his big moment. I want those doubts to go away. I think we're all like it. I think everybody watching this podcast, right? But it was difficult, Andrew. You know, it was really difficult to hear the manager talking about Cyriel Dessers when you've got somebody next to you saying, that's my boy, and sobbing, you know, in joy. But yeah, listen, just, you know, go and do it on Sunday, and then everything goes away.
It's as easy as that, right?
All I was going to say, guys, the Rangers supporters have been like this since I was a wee boy. We judge players immediately, right? Our mind's made up a lot of the time by October at the start of the season. If a guy comes in July, but most people's minds made up in October sometimes. But I'm comparing apples and oranges before people go nuts in the comments here, right? But Stevie, you're old enough to remember the Mark Hateley's first season. Couldn't put a foot right. Scored some goals. Very similar season to what Dessers had last season, where he contributed. He scored goals, and we all know what happened at the end of the first season. But he had a poor week in, week out, poor games. And the Rangers fans just could not take to the guy. And I'm not saying it's the same. I'm old enough to remember Alan McCoy's first season, and he couldn't hit a barn door the first season either. And we've just, sometimes I just feel that we just make our minds up really just a wee bit too early on a player. This is his second season. His first season, You know, last year, people are forgetting that he came from Italy. It's a foreign country. He's got to settle in. But he came here having just had an operation and having to recover from that. And that all takes time. The move, the new club, the new environment. And look, I'll be honest, in the last, since the start of this season, the last 5 or 6 games, he just looks like a totally different player at times. Now, he's still got his flaws in his game. Everybody knows that. But if he didn't have any flaws in his game, he would be playing for Real Madrid. So, I'm not suggesting that he's going to be an absolute sensation for us this season, but I'm genuinely of the mind that I think he might well score 30 plus this season. I think that's the way he's looking. He just looks, as Stevie had said, a totally different, personality in terms of confidence. He just looks like, I mean, you've seen it on Saturday yourself, guys. He was getting kicked and pulled and he was pushing folk about the pitch. Never seen that with him last year. He was just moaning at the referee and walking away. He was actually manhandling guys, and it was great to see. So I think he's going to do well.
I said to Shona on Saturday, he's quite grumpy today because he was we had picked up on it. Like, I'm not trying to be funny. Like Shona will tell you, like, we had commented on it during the game that he's quite grumpy. He's getting in amongst it. He's getting that wee bit of fire in him. So maybe there's a bit of truth to what Kenny's saying. And by the way, see, when Kenny says most people have made up their mind by October, I give players 10 minutes.
First misplaced pass. It's all over at that point. I know. Let's move on from the Cyriel Dessers show. As nice as it always is. Let's go back to Kenny and let him do some stuff. Tom Lawrence's goal, which was a fantastic worked team goal, starts from Tav at right back, and ends up with Tav with Tom Lawrence. Putting it at the back of the net. Tom Lawrence had been trying all game, but he'd hit the post earlier. Again, it's that resilience and the determination throughout the team to come on and do it. All context in the world, right? It's against Ross County. We're at home with a relatively friendly crowd, as friendly as the Rangers crowd ever is, and Ross County, for all the credit in the world you want to give them, aren't on a particularly good run and aren't the same level as the team we're going to be playing this coming weekend. Nonetheless, still an excellent goal to see, Kenny, and just throughout the team, again, it just shows how well everyone's working together.
Yeah, it was a cracking goal. That and the first goal, I actually really liked the first goal as well. I thought it was a brilliant goal, so incisive. And we look, and again, the guys have kind of mentioned it already, but on the left and the right hand side, there's pace there. There's real pace on the wings now, and but they call it transitions. It's a counter attack. It is literally right from inside our box. And it's just so quick and so sweeping. Listen, I actually give Tom Lawrence his due. And it is one of those games that, when we've got 70-odd% of the ball, possession, he is going to look good, I suppose. But at the same time, I thought he had a good game on Saturday. I thought he played really well. I thought he missed the sitter, as Shona had said. He really has to score that. I think it's nicked the post. But look, it's one of those things. I think that if we can play like that and get those bodies into the box the way we are and get the ball up the park as quick as we can, the way that Clement has clearly, try to instill into them, this is what he wants to do, is almost suck teams in, and away you go with the pace that we have. I thought we were really good for the majority of the game. The only point I thought we were actually quite poor was the first 10 minutes. I didn't think we started particularly well. But from there on in, if we had scored 9, 10, Ross County couldn't have complained. But the goal itself was a joy, actually. It was cracking to see. But as I say, my mind's kind of not made up on what my favourite goal of the day was. I liked the first goal in particular as well. I thought it was a cracking goal. But yeah, delighted with the result and the performance on Saturday. I thought we were really quite effective you know, against it. You know, you can only beat what's in front of you, but, you know, we've put them right to the sword.
You know what? Sorry, on you go, Steve.
No, on you go. On you go.
You know what I really loved about Tom Lawrence was, did you see the tackle with Connor Barron in the middle of the park? And obviously then you saw Ross County trying to make a counter-attack. It was him, Czerny, that had tracked back for the players at the back. I think it actually might have came from a corner or an attacking position from Tav, actually, and it was obviously Tav that lost it. And then it was that transition mode. And I'm sure it was Czerny, and I'm sure it could have been Yefty and Tom Lawrence. And it was Tom Lawrence that was actually tracking one of the guys that didn't allow that space to happen. So no, fair play to Tom Lawrence. I actually thought that was his moment there where I thought, Tom Lawrence doesn't really track back. And I just noticed that in the highlights when I watched it back again. I was like, that's Tom Lawrence. That's Tom Lawrence actually making the run back to cut out the player that obviously the pass wasn't on. So no, fair play to Tom Lawrence and obviously Czerny, because Czerny basically didn't allow that player to have any room at all to get that ball in the box. So no, fair play to the two of them. But yeah, I thought Tom Lawrence had a pretty decent game. I thought the pirouette for obviously the goal, and obviously I think with the Dessers holding the ball up in midfield, playing it off to Matondo, and then I think it was Dessers that made the run off. I think Stevie said that earlier on. They made the run off the defender off to the left that created that space for Tom Lawrence to go in and have a shot on goal. So no, I think overall, I think Tom Lawrence did have a really good game. It's probably one of his best games I've seen him play.
Right, very quick point. Very quick. For a team that has no style and we're all wondering what the manager's doing in training and everything else, we've seen that goal before. You think about the goal in Kiev. Ball, Tav, to Dessers, who holds it up, runners off him. We've seen it before. That's obviously something we practiced. Dessers is doing well, gets central, holds the ball up, and there's runners off him. And this time it was Matondo, last time it was Jeffy. But it's the same ball from Tav. It's the same movement. Tav gets it to play it forward. Dessers is there. And then there's your onwards runner. And everything Shona said was right about the movement off it. But for a team that have no style, Andrew, and don't practice, we're 6-7 games in and we've seen the same goal twice.
It's the same, Steve. It was the same with the Yefty. When Yefty, it was actually, I think it came from Butland. Butland puts the ball out to Yefty. Yefty, what I like about Yefty is you don't know if he's going to go down wide or if he's going to cut inside. And because he's pace, he cuts inside. And I think he plays the ball. That's the one that's to Tom Lawrence, who does a pirouette and lays the ball off to Dessers. And then it's 3 passes and it's in the back of the net.
Yeah, as you guys have all said, style of play, we're starting to see signs of it. This is the first time this season we've had a complete 90-minute performance. So slowly and surely we are getting there. The manager himself has said we're not going to see the best of this team until, October. So it's going to be a case of letting some of these players bed in and see how they go. Before we quickly move on to a bit of contract news and transfer news as well, we have to touch briefly on our other striker who's finally back, Dean Hings, this season. Stevie, I want to stay with you for this one because of something Shona told me just before we came on air. Danilo comes back, gets a goal, the 90th minute. Obviously means a great deal to him. It's very emotional after the game, after the goal, sorry. And you could tell that it meant a lot to him. But I think, if possible, it meant more to you. Just in terms of your emotional reaction when you saw him after the game.
Yeah. I am a huge fan of Danilo because I root for the underdog. People might know that about me. And he's had 2 horrible injuries. Struck up a bit of a friendship with him off the park. And we kind of exchange a few messages here and there. That's all it is, nothing more than that. We're not best pals or anything. But when he was injured, I would drop him a message saying, look, man, keep your head up. Won't be long until you're back scoring goals. In the summer, I spoke to him quite a wee bit. And I said, looking forward to the moment we get in the press conference and you've just scored the goal. And then on Saturday, it came. So on Saturday, Shona will tell you, when the press conference is finished, we kind of locked eyes and he gave me a wee kind of acknowledgement. And it was nice. It was a nice moment. So, yeah, I am a big fan of Danilo. You know what I mean? And if he could shift the guy that's up front at the moment, then we'll be doing well because the big guy's doing good, isn't he? So if we've got both of them firing and pushing each other, then I love that. And that's the best thing for us. But, a lot of people have spoken about how we need this and how we need that. And we do, right? There's no denying it. But, Andrew, if you suddenly, in a couple of months' time, get a firing Danilo, pushing Dessers, scoring goals on the bench, pushing people on, you know, it's going to go a long way to making Rangers successful, because it's not about 11 players. It's about having a squad all of a sudden proper, and Czerny look okay. Czerny might always do the best thing, but he's a bloody massive difference from anything we've had in that right wing. Then Jeffty's coming on to a game. Connor Barron looks decent. This could be a big week for us. If we get one or two really proper quality players in, all of a sudden, Andrew, this wee jigsaw that the manager's been going on about for a good wee while is coming together. So Danilo, a lot of time for him. Really chuffed. Anybody that goes through the kind of 2 massive injuries that he has shows the resilience to come back, puts up with, you know, having to fight for his place and get time. And I know he's frustrated and things like that. But when you get wee moments like that, yeah, it's nice to be there and witness it. And I would be the same for anyone, though, that went through a kind of injury like that. To have that moment, it makes it all kind of, it's the goal you want, really, isn't it, for you? So if you were to call it that afternoon, you know, it would have been that. But Shona and I on Saturday seen Scott Wright beforehand, got our pictures with Scott Wright, which was a very emotional moment for Scott, obviously, to meet his biggest hero. And obviously, I'm Scott's biggest hero. So that was a nice moment for him. And then Cyriel Desser's got 2. Danilo comes off the bench and scores, and we finally got a live goal on the vlog as well. So Saturday was a really good day for us, Andrew.
Yeah, and I would encourage folk to check out the vlog, because yeah, finally seeing you guys manage to react in real time to a Rangers goal, that was excellent. Really good to see. Yeah, and you know, a nice validation of what we can do with the vlogging as well. Yeah, just a shame that it's the first one that we've managed to catch so far on camera. Nonetheless, it was excellent to see, and would highly encourage folk to go and check it out, because yeah, it was a great watch. Shona, I want to come to you briefly, because setting the game aside and setting aside the small matter of the next game that we have to play, we'll cover that in more detail on our Friday podcast. We've got a little bit of transfer news, which hopefully starts the process of unlocking some more transfers here. You know, we talked about it on the last pod. You know, it looks more like it's going to be 1 in, 1 out at this point. The manager actually said in the press conference after the game that he felt there will be more inbounds than outbounds in terms of transfers, and no one who is currently in the squad that day would be part of the outgoings, short of, you know, a massive bid coming in, right? We got confirmation after that Ben Davies has gone out on loan, and also that John Sousa has been handed a new contract as well, extending his deal. I think he only had 2 years left on his current one. So that's a sign of faith in the manager that's been placed in John Sousa. It's also a sign of where we see Ben Davies in the pecking order. I think when he comes back, he's only got a year left on his deal. I don't imagine that we'll be struggling to hold on to him or looking to renew his deal. For one reason or another, it's just not worked out. But hopefully, as I said, it's the start of us kicking off this process and moving some players in the building as well as out.
Yeah, I think Ben Davies had to leave with the amount of wages that he was on. It's just a shame that we've spent the best part of nearly £4 million on this boy, and we're probably not going to see a penny of it back. We've not got our money's worth. So, look, I think it's about time that Ben Davies leaves, and I hope he does have a great season at Birmingham City. And hopefully that means we'll be able to get him off the wage bill completely and be able to get some money back for him. So I do believe that Rangers will probably go in for a centre-half. I think that is looking likely with the guys that we've been linked with recently. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens this week. I think, look, I think if we've had discussions, I think I've had discussions with Stevie about even the likes of maybe not even needing a number 6 at this moment in time. I think if you were to go out there and get maybe, like I said, 2 quality players, probably one that I would love to see, obviously, that I've touted before, but if you can get a number 10 that likes of Morgan Whittaker, who obviously we've had 2 bids taken back, rejected from there, if we can get somebody like that who can play that number 10 and play across the front 3 and as a forward, I think you're absolutely, look, I think that would be the kind of marquee signing that you'd be looking for. And then obviously bringing in a centre back. Look, I'd love to see us bring in a number 6, but I just think that if you've got Barron that can play that position, who's been playing it really, really well. You've got Raskin, who when he comes back, that'll be his position as well. And yeah, look, we'll just have to wait and see what this week brings. I'm sure that me and Stevie and maybe a few others, hopefully Kenny can come on board if we end up getting some transfer news. But regarding John Sousa is a strange one, because when he was playing the left side of the centre back, the amount of times that he got caught underneath that ball, and it didn't help with having Ben Davies alongside him at times, because I think Ben Davies is just capable of the same amount of errors as him, especially when, like I said, like balls over the top. So, look, Ben Davies is out of contract. I think, and like you said, in 2 years' time, he fits the Scottish quota. I think he's only on around £8,000 a week. So he is at that lower end of the wage bracket. So it probably does fit in well as to what we're trying to do. Obviously, with the wage bill, I think it makes sense, because obviously the likes of, as I said, it fits the Scottish quota. And I think his performances recently have actually been quite impressive. I'm not going to lie, over on the right side of centre-back, I think he has to play there from now on. It's up to him if he wants to lose that position. Obviously, you've got Balogun, who we think will probably be back for the weekend, and obviously Proper. So, look, it's up to John Suter now. I presume the manager will probably bring in a right-sided centre-back. That's the way I'm looking at it. I think if you've got Balogun and you've got Proper, I know Proper can play both, but I think Proper will probably play more as your left-hand side, same with Balogun. Then I presume that you'll probably bring in one for the right-hand side. So, look, I'm sure we've got a lot of exciting stuff to bring to you this week, because it is the last week of the transfer window, and we know that Rangers need to do business. So it'll be interesting. I'm not going to lie, it will be interesting. But yeah, I think Suter probably does deserve that extra contract, just purely because he fits that Scottish quota.
Yeah, I think we're going to call it there, folks. It's been a pleasure, obviously, talking to you. It always is. But we will be talking again to our lovely viewers and listeners later on this week. We'll be previewing the Old Firm, as well as looking, hopefully, at some transfers that have come in over the week. But listen, we're live, so it absolutely depends on what happens. If we suddenly do something insane in the transfer market, then I'm sure I could rustle up a few people to jump on and do a little podcast to discuss that as well. I'm going to go around and thank all of my lovely co-hosts, because I couldn't do it without them. I would find it very uncomfortable and weird to do this by myself. So I'd like to thank all of them in turn. Kenny, as always, mate, it's a pleasure, and thank you.
Thanks, Andrew. Enjoyed that.
Good stuff. Shona, thank you again, and I appreciate you not being too, too ingracious in your celebrations today as well. It's good to see, just calmly accepting that Cyriel Dessers is our king now. So it's good to see.
No, look, guys, thanks very much. It was a really good podcast tonight. Obviously, I think we've got a lot to talk about this week. Look at Stevie's face; he's absolutely cool. But no, we've got a lot to obviously discuss this week when it comes to transfers, and obviously the preview of the weekend. And look, I would just like to give a wee shout out to my friend Alistair Cameron. Unfortunately, his dad was the man that had a cardiac arrest at Mount Florida train station. Look, he's doing well, and he wants to give his thanks to everybody, the fans, the police, and obviously the doctor that was in the queue that obviously managed to save his life. So, look, just thanks to everybody that helped him out. As Rangers fans, we are family at the end of the day, and that just goes to show your support. And thank you very much for it. So, and look, speedy recovery to Ian.
Absolutely echo that, and anyone who goes to a football game should always come back. So it's good that he will be able to do that. Finally, Stevie, thank you to you as well. I know you've had some fun tonight with all this, so appreciate you coming on, mate.
Yeah, as ever, thank you to everybody that watches, subscribes, follows, shares, comments, everything. Really, really appreciate it. And just the more that people do it, the more that we can produce content. We'll hopefully be back with signing news this week. We'll do some little mini pods on players coming in. That's certainly the hope. If we don't get anybody in, then I think we'll all be very surprised, judging by the manager's comments. But it's been a good weekend. Good result for the Rangers women yesterday as well, with a 9-0 victory up in Montrose, which takes them to, I think, plus 33 goal difference for the first 4 games. I think they've won 11-0, 9-0, 4-0, 9-0. So, ridiculous results. Katie Wilkinson, the new striker, has got 3 hat-tricks as well. So they've stopped letting her take the footballs home. So before we run out. So look, just a wee shout out to them as well. B team travel to Morecambe in a kind of friendly tomorrow as well. So we'll try and get you all the news on that. There is some folk going that I know that we'll be able to update you with. I don't think it's been covered. I think it's just a kind of bounce friendly. So, there's a lot of Ranger stuff going on this week. And then obviously we'll be back Friday. A wee warm up before Sunday's show, before Sunday's showdown. And hopefully, Andrew, you'll get a few signings. So, yeah, Listen, it's been great. A really good vlog at the weekend. Good chat tonight. The Sunday show last night as well dropped, and people can check that out too. So there's a lot of good content happening, and it's thanks to everybody that's watching and subscribing and helping us do that. So, you know, a huge shout out to our sponsors, Rhino, Clydeview, AFL and CSD. You know, without them providing us with all the equipment and the sponsorship, the stadium and stuff, we couldn't do what we do. So just a lot of thank yous. Humbly appreciate it. And it's really welcome. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, echo everything that Stevie said there. And yeah, I'm sure we'll talk to you again. But until we do, bye for now. Four Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, along with Art of Gold. Thank you for listening or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.